Today, PXC is without a doubt one of the largest mixed martial arts promotions in Asia, but it's come a long way since its grassroots beginnings in 2004.
There was a company from off island that did a couple of shows here, and they would utilize a lot of the local boys, and they weren't paying them well. They were giving them like $25, $50 to fight. And one day, Joey and I were just kind of going back and forth, and we said, you know, let's just do our own fights. Started doing our first fight, like I said, either 2003 or the beginning of 2004 at UOG, and we've been doing it since then. Back then, when we first started the fights, it was harder to put together a fight card because you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Instagram and all social media. So back then we would have to travel to Hawaii, California, you know, Boston, New York, whatever it was, just to find fighters. And we would look up on phone books or call 411 and call different academies to look for fighters. And that's what we did way back then.
The early days of PXC were a much rawer, crazier time. The MMA revolution had just begun on Guam, and the tons of fighters and fight fans came out of the woodwork to fill the field house with some of the most hyped fights the island has ever seen.
In the early days of MMA on Guam, in the early days of PXC, everyone wanted to see who was the toughest guy in the village. Everyone wanted to see who was the toughest guy in the Marianas. It was all about the rivalry.
There was a lot of fighters at the time. Everyone wanted to create a name for themselves. You know, back then was brawls, you know, and that's what kept everyone at the edge of their seat, and which was exciting for the locals and for Americans, basically, because they love that hard contact.
PXC was the show, you know? You come there and now you fight at the UOG field house where it was not just 800 people or 500 people versus in Saipan. Now you have 2,000, 3,000 people yelling and going crazy, and it's a bigger event, you know? And you see this huge guy, Manny Chong, just freaking, you know, knocking fools out. Baby Joe was coming into the mix. Ryan Bigler, seeing the local boys or seeing the guys from Guam fight guys from like California and from the States and just whoop on them was amazing, you know? And it kind of like gave me hope that I could one day do that.
When I was growing up, when I first moved to Guam, I went to a lot of PXCs. The fighters that really inspired me were like Jesse Taitano, Justin the Shocker Cruz, Alex Castro, Chris Brubb, you know, like these guys really put in work back in the day, you know, like, and I looked up to these guys, you know, like, and I always said that I want to do what these guys are doing.
Both on Guam and all over the world, MMA was blowing up and PXC continued to evolve with it.
MMA is the fastest growing sport in the world today. It's one of the most popular sports in the Pacific, and PXC has been riding that wave for almost a decade now.
I give PXC a lot of credit. I mean, gosh, you know, they've built young, aspiring fighters of all walks, you know, especially from the islands. And I think that, you know, a lot of credit should be given to them because they put on a professional event. They invite professional fighters. They give local talent an opportunity to compete on the biggest stage in the region. You know, we already got locals from Guam competing in the UFC. John Tuck, of course, everyone knows. John the Heat de los Reyes. And that's very inspiring for our young, aspiring athletes who want to make that impact. The local talent will definitely have the opportunity to compete on the highest stage.
It has been our fans that have helped PXC to expand. We're streaming live in countries all around the world. Millions of fans watching in the Philippines through our TV partnership there. And sky's the limit. We're just continuing to grow little by little every year and give the fans what they want.
PXC 50 is the culmination of over a decade of growth and evolution, with Frank Camacho versus Tyrone Jones being another chapter in the long, storied history of Guam mixed martial arts. Only time will tell what the future holds for PXC, but all signs point towards another 10 years of good nights and great fights.